You started writing later in life and have since published over 20 novels. What was the spark that finally made you sit down and write that first book?
It was boredom. Both of my kids, I only had two at the time, were at school all day and I was bored. I didn't want to work outside the home and I just thought I'd give writing a try. It was kind of a beginning to an early midlife crisis.
You moved between romance, cozy mystery, and young adult. Which genre feels most like home to you, and which was the hardest to write?
Surprisingly, the one that feels most like home to me is the cozy mystery. For as long as I can remember, since I was 16, romance was my end-all be-all. But I wrote most of my 20 books are romance, and I just burned out. The indie romance industry was awful, and I just burned out. And so I switched to my second favorite genre, which was cozy mystery. I think the hardest to write, though, were my young adult, because when I wrote them, I was nowhere near a young adult age.
With the sixth volume of the Robbins Nest Inn mystery series, Bouquets and Bloodshed, coming out in May 2026, what can fans expect for Laurelyn and Devon in the next chapter?
There will be a lot of mystery and a lot of turmoil, not only with Laurelyn, but with them as a couple in an age gap relationship. So I'd say pretty much the rest of the series is going to be a lot of course, mysteries, but also a lot of turmoil.
You transitioned from writing as JJ Ellis to writing exclusively of JJ Weatherill. How does it feel to rebrand your creative identity?
It's a pain in the butt because I had, followers and everything all lined up. I had the whole thing down pat, and then all of a sudden I have to change my name, and it gets hard. But the good thing is I switched from the romances and such being JJ Ellis to, oh, my kitty, she's right there. Hi, Smokey. I transferred from JJ Ellis with romance and young adult to my mysteries being JJ Weatherill, and that does make it slightly easier.
Okay, moving on to your life in Tasmania. You're originally from Oregon, but now you live in Tasmania. How does the rugged beauty of the Tasmanian landscape, like Circular Head, influence the setting of your books?
So far, it hasn't influenced it much. In my mysteries, Devon, the main male character, is from this part of Tasmania. And I did have a book based solely in Tasmania. But as far as the future, I'm going to try to write some books that take place here in Tasmania and some books that take place in America.
In your mystery of Death in Tassie, you brought your characters to your new home country. Did any real-life Tasmanian experiences make it into the plot?
A lot. So many. Everything from, the words we say different. And when I first got here, I didn't want to switch words. I didn't want to call shopping carts trolleys, all that. I was determined never to do that. And I had Laurelyn be the same way. And then, of course, Devon took Laurelyn to places that my husband took me when I first came here. And, a lot of the scenery. And it's just, a lot of real life played into that.
Okay, moving on to your role as the Chief Operating Officer of Weatherill Essentials. How do you balance the structured executive side of running a global brand with the free-flowing creativity needed to write novels?
Actually, my job involves a lot of creativity. So they just kind of flow easily together, and I get to spend all day, every day, being creative. So it's the perfect combination.
What is your primary goal for the Weatherill Essentials Publishing and Management Division over the next year?
My primary goal is to get all of my books up and going again, even my past ones, my romances and young adult, and to get my mystery, my first 10-book set of mysteries out to the world. And I hope to get our newly signed author, Violet Wayne, up and running and get her a little bit of success there with her thrillers.
It's well known you love watching cop shows on TV. If you could have any TV detective cameo in one of your mystery novels, who would it be?
Probably someone you've never heard of. A lot of, since I write cozy mystery, bumbling cop is a key trope in a lot of them. Back in the 80s, there was a show called Sledgehammer, and he was this bumbling cop. It was a half-hour comedy show. I would love to have him show up for a cameo in any of my mysteries.
Besides writing, you enjoy graphic design. Do you ever design book covers or marketing materials for Weatherall Essentials?
I do design some, yes. It would be kind of silly to hire it out, so I just go ahead and do it myself.
What is one essential thing you need at your desk before you can start writing for the day?
I'd be tempted to say coffee, but I don't think that's really it. What's important for me as someone who has fibromyalgia is having a comfortable place to sit, whether that's with a laptop on the couch or desktop at the desk with a comfy chair. That's the number one thing I need.
If you had to live inside the world of one of your books for a week, which one would you choose and why?
Although all of my books would be great, I have a cruise to Alaska, which I've been on to, and they're wonderful. I have small towns that I just adore, but I think I would give anything to be in my book Anguish and meet my character Ben Harper. Just spend time in his world for a week because he was such a complex, beautiful character.
What message do you have for other aspiring writers who feel like it might be too late for them to start their publishing journey?
It's never too late. I have over the years, had so many indie friends everywhere from, early 20s to 50s. Even one of them, she was almost 70 when I first met her. So it's never, ever too late. Just if you want to write a book and publish it, indie or traditional, just go for it.